You're getting to watch a walking Hall of Famer in Christian McCaffrey, so appreciate it. And take a look inside the 49ers locker room for Kyle Shanahan's message to San Francisco following a win over CMC's former team, the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, hell of a job, man. Big time win. Gotta give it to everyone here. Like, first of all, Tig, probably best game as a Niner for one. Big time play. Hey, they got a few big things, man. All right, Tig, the turnovers, guys. That was their chance to run away. You guys kept us in that. All right, Gay, welcome. All right. Hey, guys, I'm a cool-ass coach, so I'm going to give you guys Victory Tuesday tomorrow. Appreciate you. You're welcome, dude. You're welcome. Hey, guys, short week. All right, you guys know the deal. We got Thanksgiving. We got a short week. We're going out to Cleveland on Friday. All right, big-time football for us all the way out, man. Come on, Ted. Let's go, fellas. Let's go. I got you.
Hey, fellas, man, this week, man, was big, bro. Just taking, man, expectations, subbing it for appreciation, bro. And appreciating coming to work with y'all boys every day, appreciating the grind. Appreciate this, man. We don't know how much long we got, bro. This is a small game, bro. Small game, small portion of your life is what I mean. So keep doing this, man. Keep going. I appreciate working with you guys every day, man. Hey, Niners on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Christian McCaffrey.
Want to do another one?
Another one?
All right, bro. Good job, man.
Hey, good job.
For real.
Hey, no, hey, you're a great player.
Well, way to go out there, man.
Hey.
Much appreciation, much respect. Want to do another?
I helped the
Hey,
win,
good job.
right?
Hey, much
Did
respect.
I
Man.
help?
Much respect.
You also heard from Jair Brown. 2 interceptions, replicating what he did in college as an interception machine at Penn State. And don't look now, but are the 49ers rounding into a balanced outfit? Plus 10 EPA, expected points on defense, by far their best performance of the season. Plus 4.4 against the Seattle Seahawks in week 1, but they had both Nick Bosa and Fred Warner for that game. If the 49ers can play balanced football the rest of the way, I mean, they're absolutely contenders. They don't have to rely only on elite offense and plus special teams to win games. So that was such a huge step forward for the 49ers defense. And Jair Brown actually shared what might have motivated the defense the night before the game.
We had a couple of guys speak this week. You know, a couple of guys spoke last night, and Samo spoke, man, about opportunity, and a lot of guys felt that story coming from Samo, and man, tonight was a night, you know, to had an opportunity to show the world what the 49er defense is, you know, being down some of our best players, and the guys did a great job of doing that tonight.
Sam Okawanu, born in Liberia, African country, came over to the United States, hadn't played football, undrafted free agent shortly after learning how to play football, not too far after that. Amazing story, and he was the one who spoke to the 49ers team on Sunday night before they played the Panthers and won that game 20-9. One of the powerful messages that the 49ers heeded to appreciate their current position, and then they turned around and delivered their best defensive performance of the season. You heard me talking about the EPA breakdown of the 49ers in their game against the Panthers. This is sensational news for San Francisco. They were plus 5.4 offensively, so it ended up being a good game offensively despite the 3 giveaways. Obviously wasn't overpowering, but plus 10.9 on defense. The best that the 49ers had been prior to this was plus 4.4, as I said, week 1 against the Seattle Seahawks. But that was with the big guns. They were able to scrounge away to this victory against Carolina, blitzing 29.4% of the time. A lot of great blitzes from Robert Saleh to go basically up 2 touchdowns on defense. I mean, that's plus 11 points on defense is no joke. And if the 49ers can replicate some of this moving forward, I'm not saying plus 10 against better offenses, but I'm saying scoring the positives or just go net 0 on defense, the offense is going to be better than it was against the Panthers. The offense is not going to run into the interceptions on 3 straight possessions that we saw against Carolina. That's just not who Brock Purdy has been over the course of his career. And that side of the football can be the locomotive that pulls the train. Balanced production from all phases of the game is what can send the 49ers a long way in this 2025 season. The breaking news is that the NFL has suspended Trayvon Merrick 1 game for hitting Jennings in the balls. That was the big news coming out of the game yesterday because it happened right at the very end. Jennings went and shoved Merrick in the face. Jennings is not going to get suspended. I'm sure if that was going to happen, then it would have been announced right now by the league alongside the Merrick suspension. Jennings might get a fine, but maybe the league will be reasonable here and let him off the hook. I think that his retaliation was very, very understandable once you got to see that video. So justice for Jawan. Some good news for the 49ers coming out of this game against the Carolina Panthers. They've got to turn around very, very quickly and prepare for what is going to be one of the grittiest, grimiest tests of this 2025 season. This is next. The Cleveland Browns defensive line, Myles Garrett, pictured there in 2023 when the Browns beat the 49ers in Cleveland. That was San Francisco's last trip to Ohio. The Browns ranked number 1 in pass rush win rate and number 1 in run stop win rate. This is an elite defensive line. The 49ers have already faced some very good fronts this season. We talk a lot about the Houston Texans. We talk a lot about the Rams. Well, I think that the Browns up front might be better than both of those teams. Obviously, they're not good offensively. That's why the 49ers are favored by 5.5 points now in this game. But for a 49ers offensive line that is playing its best football of the season right now, this is a fantastic test. For Brock Purdy, who threw those 3 interceptions yesterday, and I wrote all about this on the San Francisco Standard. I talked about aggressiveness. I talked about profit-taking. I talked about the formula for the 49ers to beat some of the better opponents on their schedule. They got away with it yesterday against the Carolina Panthers, and maybe they didn't really respect the Panthers and their defense and just that team as a whole. I mean, they were ranked number 24 in EPA. 49ers were able to win by 11 points despite the fact that they turned that ball over 3 times in a row. Christian McCaffrey also fumbled on one of those drives, but Colton McKivitz had a hell of a recovery. So, I mean, regardless of what happened for the 49ers on those interception drives yesterday, the formula to beat really good defenses and to beat the better teams on the 49ers schedule is going to lie in what they did on their successful drives. And that was drive 1 of the entire game when they went 72 yards on 15 plays. And that was those second half drives that they strung together a good 30 plays over some long second half drives of methodical football, ball hogging football, risk averse football. And I think that there's got to be some higher level of risk aversion for the 49ers offense if it does want to hog the ball this year and protect its defense. Thankfully, they did it for 1 drive yesterday to open that game because I think it put the defense on a good platform to perform and deliver the plus 10.9 EPA that we saw from the defense, which was the best performance of the season. But against better opponents, the 49ers are going to have to set themselves up much, much better in the turnover column than they did against the Carolina Panthers. Anyway, a lot to talk about early this afternoon. San Francisco is going to have to turn around and get back out to practice tomorrow. It's a short week against the Browns, which I don't think enough people are talking about. I mean, this is going to be a physical game. It's going to be a cold weather game. It's the post-Thanksgiving game. Last year in the post-Thanksgiving game, the 49ers just got completely stomped out by Buffalo. That was snowy weather up in the far reaches of the state of New York. Obviously, the health situation of San Francisco last year was completely dire by that point. Brock Purdy was coming off of a game that he missed against the Green Bay Packers. So 49ers in a much better spot than they were in 2024. They're now 8-4, but they're going to have to battle inclement weather and battle Myles Garrett in a Cleveland front that is surely to put everything to the test. And I could talk about them not fully respecting the Carolina defense and getting willy-nilly with some of the aggressiveness caps on those 3 drives in the first and second quarter. You're not going to be able to get away with that against Cleveland. They're going to make you pay in this game because it's on the road. It's a better defense in that they're going to hit you harder. They're going to harass the quarterback more. The 49ers, I think they got out of yesterday's game scot-free when it came to injuries, maybe some bruises for San Francisco entering this short week, but I don't think that it was anything too intense. Cleveland is going to take a toll. And if you blink against this defense, they can turn it into 6 the other way. There's fumble sixes, pick sixes, you name it, or just turnovers in extremely damaging territory that the 49ers may not be so lucky to escape without damage. They escaped that first Brock Purdy interception without damage thanks to the Jair Brown interception, his first one, which was a hell of a play, hell of an instinctive play. So I think that the game plan this week for the 49ers is going to have to be something that draws upon the growth moment, the teaching potential of the game against the Panthers. Stay composed offensively, take the profit. Nobody's ever gone broke taking a profit, so continue taking the profit throughout the whole game. The first drive for the 49ers against the Carolina Panthers, they went 15 plays for that touchdown from Purdy to Jennings. That was the 49ers' longest game-opening touchdown drive since the 18-play drive against the Rams in 2021 when they righted the ship and corrected the season in 2021 on Monday Night Football. Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback then, and they just, took the profit 3, 4, 5 yards at a time all the way down the field against the Rams. And then they continued doing that all game, and they beat the Rams, 31-10? That was the eventual Super Bowl champion Rams. 49ers would have won that game easily had they continued just taking the profit like they did in drive 1 over the course of the entire first 30 minutes. They probably would have been up 21-3, 24-3, something like that entering the locker room. They didn't do it, so they had to sweat it a little bit more, but they were a whole heck of a lot better than the Panthers. The only path to victory against the better teams on the 49ers schedule, and some of those are going to be coming up. The Colts on December 22nd, then the Chicago Bears after that, the Seahawks after that, and then whomever the 49ers get in the playoffs, because right now the 49ers are on track to make those playoffs. The path to victory is going to be through hogging the football. And, I always wonder, and I was talking about this with my buddy RJ, shout out to RJ. We talk about balancing risk and reward. We talk about what Brock Purdy needs to do, what Kyle Shanahan needs to do offensively for the 49ers to make sure that they are best supporting the defense. It's all contextual, right? And there are times when the context of the situation calls for greater offensive aggressiveness, and that's obviously going to be run through your quarterback, the guy that controls Brock Purdy. And there are times when you've got to ease off the gas a little bit. I think that the 49ers in general had been wary of their defense because the defense, ranked number 25 in the league entering this game. It hadn't been playing well for understandable reasons. It had been bleeding a lot of yardage. They started to turn things around against Arizona by starting to force those takeaways, which is huge for this 49ers defense. They've got to play bend but don't break. But when there's wariness about the defense, there's more pressure on the shoulders of the offense, just naturally. However, I don't think that more pressure on the shoulders of the offense just because of defensive struggles should automatically equate to more aggressiveness from the offense. Just because your defense is ranked in the bottom 5, bottom 7 of the league, I don't think that necessarily means you just have to start pushing the ball downfield with near reckless abandon. And obviously the defense played well yesterday, so preconceived notions about that unit, at least for those 60 minutes yesterday, could fly out the window. But say that the 49ers were operating with the mental mindset of this defense needs a lot of help. I would argue that aggressive shots downfield to the intermediate part of the field where you're putting the ball into some sort of risk, as we saw yesterday with Brock Purdy, I would argue that not necessarily the optimal path to go. I think there's a difference between, especially when you consider the context of a game, I think there's a difference between aggressive pursuit of explosive plays and possessing the football. And I think that we saw that difference really, really clearly last night. The first drive of the game, the 49ers didn't try for explosive plays downfield. Carolina gave them the opportunity at 5 yards at a time. They were at something like 4.8, 4.9 yards per play after that first touchdown drive. They took the profit very patiently, very methodically all the way downfield. The 3 interceptions came when the 49ers started to get crazy downfield. I mean, you could talk all you want about inaccuracy of the throw, as Kyle Shanahan did. Okay, it was a little bit late to Juwan Jennings. It was a little bit behind Juwan Jennings. But at the end of the day, the 49ers still decided to go play action, higher risk throw on first down from their own 8-yard line when they were already up 7-0 after a drive had worked for 15 plays downfield. To me, that's a failure to understand the context of a situation kind of play, because what was working didn't need to be fixed. The second drive, or the second interception, Brock Purdy had already run for a first down. Showed no ill effects of the toe injury running for that first down, by the way. That's when he gave the nice celebration. So he'd run for a first down. He bolted out of the pocket. 10-yard split was on display. 49ers were churning their way downfield. Again, taking the profit play after play. Everything was looking good. They ran into a 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 7. Purdy dropped back the pass, got flushed forward out of the pocket. He had all kinds of room in front of him. He also had George Kittle in front of him. If the mentality had been just take the profit, the 49ers would have continued churning downfield. Instead, Purdy decided to rip one to Ricky Pearsall, an extremely high degree of difficulty throw. I get that you don't want to fault Brock, as Kyle Shanahan message during his post-game press conference. I get that you don't want to fault him for taking a chance. I get that you had single coverage with Ricky Pearsall. But again, context of the situation. You're in the midst of a 12-play drive that probably turns into another 15-plus play scoring drive if you just take the first down and keep on churning. That is the path to win these football games for the 49ers. That's how you shield the defense. That's how you're going to beat the better football teams. You don't have to take the chance that Brock Purdy did on that second drive, or the second interception drive. Finally, the third pick yesterday was a really good play from J.C. Horn. And you give him credit for basically coming off of his side of the field, scanning Purdy's eyes the whole way. George Kittle explained it. Really, no quarterback probably expects that in that situation, which is why all quarterbacks, even the very best ones, are going to throw their share of picks, because sometimes the defense makes a really good play. But I go back to the context of the moment here. And the 49ers already had 2 interceptions. Purdy already had 2 interceptions under his belt at this time that had occurred due to the fact that the offense just was putting the football. He was putting the football into too risky of a position given the context of the game. So at that point, with that knowledge, you can rein things back a little bit. You can say, hey, okay, what worked in drive 1, what worked for the majority of drive 2 until the interception play on that third down, why don't we just go back to that? Why are we looking 15-plus yards downfield if that's clearly what Carolina is trying to take away from us? I mean, they were giving the 49ers some of the underneath stuff. And obviously, again, there was an interception. Now, the cool thing is that the 49ers got back to what worked in the second half. And Purdy actually finished this game, I mean, very, very remarkably with positive efficiency. This is the quarterback comparison yesterday. So you can see the EPA per play. Bryce Young was way in the negatives, negative 0.3 expected points added per drop back for Bryce Young. Brock Purdy, I mean, this is wild actually to look at. He finished in the positives despite 3 consecutive drives with interceptions in the first half. But it goes to what he did on drive 1. It goes to the bread and butter that they went back to in the second half of the game. The QBR ended up being 48. 50 is average for QBR. So Purdy was right around average in this game. So just take what worked and apply only that moving forward. Let the aggressiveness come to you. if you're the 49ers and if you're Brock Purdy. I mean, I said it during the first drive. I said this is a tremendously patient game plan for San Francisco. And it seemed to me that Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy were absolutely locked in and had learned from some of the mistakes actually in Arizona, where they had 3 third and short to third and mids, and they were throwing aggressively downfield, putting the ball in harm's way. It's like, just run it or just keep it as a safe pass, because then even if you fail there, if you don't pick it up, you still have fourth down. But if you throw your way out of the opportunity by something that's too aggressive on third down and short, third down and mid, then you take away the ball hogging opportunity of fourth down. And I thought that the first drive of this game really, really showed that the 49ers had learned from the mistakes of the week prior. But then drives 2, 3, and 4 suggested the opposite. Second half, they went back to the bread and butter. So just simple. Go back to what works and build from there. And like I said, in that first drive, I said Carolina's going to have to start playing some of these shorter concepts more aggressively. And as soon as the defense starts to play the shorter game more aggressively, that's when the downfield attack is going to open up naturally. That's when you start to have open spaces downfield, and that's when you want to attack downfield. But it usually takes at least a couple drives of success before you can start pushing that. And the 49ers went play action, push it downfield from the very, very first play of that second drive, and that was the first J.C. Horn interception. And when that happens, you can talk about throwing accuracy all you want or throw timing all you want. I think just the idea in general was flawed from the 49ers. That's going to be my take. I watched the tape this morning, and I know that Kyle Shanahan said something different publicly yesterday. Now, whether or not he actually meant that, because he could be trying to protect Brock Purdy in that situation when he's talking to the press, but whether or not he meant that is a different story. I hold on to my post-game take after watching the tape. And I'm going to talk about context of aggressiveness. I'm going to talk about playing the situation as intelligently as possible. And I think the 49ers did that for several drives yesterday, but they didn't do that for the 3 drives that ended in Brock Purdy interceptions. But they're going to be fine offensively. They've got weapons. They've got a good quarterback. As I said yesterday, Joe Montana threw a career-high 4 picks in 1984, November of 1984, at home in a win against the Bengals. And the very next week, the 49ers went to Cleveland and they dropped 41 on the Browns. Now, those Browns didn't have Myles Garrett. I get it, but the point remains the same. All quarterbacks are going to throw picks. All quarterbacks are going to have the occasional weird, bad game. Purdy's already had one before. He had it against the Baltimore Ravens back in 2023, turned around the next week and was awesome against the Washington Commanders. That was a road game against Washington. So it's, some stability is required in analysis of this. And I identify what I think the 49ers are not approaching right from a strategic standpoint. And then I say, this is what the 49ers need to fix. And in this case, it's just the aggressiveness calculus. And I think that's on both Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan. And then I balance that with what they need to do in all phases of the game. And then I apply that strategy moving forward. And I think they're almost going to be straitjacketed into the strategy that I'm talking about when they have to play these guys, the Cleveland Browns. All right, it's time to talk more about Christian McCaffrey, because he is absolutely sensational. Before the game, Christian McCaffrey went and said hi to Roger Craig. 10 games this year already for Christian McCaffrey with over 100 yards from scrimmage. Roger Craig was the first running back to go 1,000, or actually the first player to go 1,000, 1,000. Only 3 in NFL history have done it. 2 of them are in that picture down at the bottom. McCaffrey did it in 2019. Craig did it in the 1980s. And we also saw Marshall Faulk do it for the Rams in 1999, the greatest show on turf. McCaffrey is on pace now after yesterday's performance for 1,128 rushing yards and 1,112 receiving yards. And his balanced threat is going to be instrumental as the 49ers take on the awesome Browns defensive front. The only way that you can keep a team that has Myles Garrett on its heels is if you deliver the threat of the run and the pass equally. You have to play this game downhill if you're the 49ers. And thankfully, because of Christian McCaffrey, they were able to play this game downhill against the Carolina Panthers. The engine, Christian McCaffrey. Take a look at this. McCaffrey forced 11 missed tackles against the Panthers, tied for the 5th most by any player in a game this season. McCaffrey leads the NFL with 83 missed tackles forced entering the Week 13 slate. 10 away, only 10 forced missed tackles away from his career high of 93 in that sensational 2023 season. So if he does this again against the Browns, which might not be as likely against the better defense, but if he could do this within the next 2 weeks, or the next 2 games, the Browns and the Tennessee Titans, 49ers will still have 3 to play, and Christian McCaffrey may have already surpassed his forced missed tackle count of 2023. So I would like to remind people that there are people who want us to take them seriously who said that Christian McCaffrey had lost the step this offseason based on watching warm-ups of an OTA practice or something like that. Well, the guy who has purportedly lost the step is on track to become the first player in NFL history to go 1,000 twice, and he's on pace to beat his statistics from an all-world 2023 season. So I will go ahead and say that this is breaking news. Christian McCaffrey has not lost a step. Look at that rushing chart for San Francisco yesterday. You could tell they're still running a nice mix of outside zone and gap scheme. The gap scheme stuff yesterday, it's mainly the inside power stuff, and a lot of that will be inside zone as well, but they're still running a combination of both. The interior stuff was not as productive for the 49ers as whenever they ran left. And the touchdown, the 17-yard touchdown you could see here, that was a run left on outside zone for the 49ers. Hell of a block on that play, by the way, from Jake Brendel, who was able to reach out, take out 57, the linebacker, a good 5 to 15 yards downfield, just put him on skates moving backwards. Trent Williams, Jake Brendel, all those guys, very, very instrumental for the 49ers in yet another efficient performance for Christian McCaffrey. Got to talk about the 49ers defense and Robert Saleh. How about the season savior, Robert Saleh? Take a look at Bryce Young's stat line over the course of the past 2 weeks. He entered this game coming off of his best career performance. 448 yards against the Falcons, 10 yards per attempt, which is really good. A 123.2 rating. The EPA per play, solid, plus 0.28. I mean, that's, if you do that over the course of a whole season, you're going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the entire league. It was a hell of a game for Bryce Young against the Falcons. And I think a lot of people expected the 49ers defense to be much worse than it was, myself included. I thought that Carolina would get into the 20s in this game, but Bryce Young turned around. And keep in mind also that his 169 passing yards against the 49ers, most of those, or a large chunk of those, came in garbage time. I mean, he wasn't above 100 yards until late in this game. 5.8 yards per attempt, which isn't good. A 60.8 rating, which isn't good. And then the EPA per play, negative 0.3 for Bryce Young in this game. Again, we can run the quarterback comparison from yesterday. Young, negative 0.3 and a 22.5 QBR. It's hard to be less efficient than a quarterback who threw 3 interceptions, but the 49ers managed to make Bryce Young much less efficient than Brock Purdy, who, again, maybe not miraculously, just by following the script, Brock Purdy ended up with plus efficiency in the game for the 49ers. Now, the path to do what the 49ers did against Bryce Young had to start with the pass rush. I mean, we talk about how good Jair Brown and the safeties were yesterday. People have accused the 49ers of not trading for a pass rusher. I see 2 pass rushers whom the 49ers traded for on this graphic who got obscenely close to Bryce Young on average yesterday. I mean, the league average as far as distance from the quarterback is 4.58 yards. It is the black bolded line here. Bryce Huff on average was 3.25 yards away from his fellow Bryce Young, and Keon White was 3.56 yards away. Yeah, that's really good. And we look at this on a week-by-week basis because I don't think it's smart to look at the 49ers pass rush and just count pressures. Bryce Huff had 5 pressures. That's really good. But Keon White only had 1 pressure. And if you just look at that to judge Keon White as a pass rusher, you're not getting it. You're not understanding what the 49ers are being tasked to do by Robert Saleh. And that is cage rush. Saleh and Chris Kaserik have gotten together and they've identified a very obvious fact. There is no Nick Bosa. There's no Michael Williams. There's no Yetur Gross-Matos. I mean, Bosa and Yetur Gross-Matos are the 49ers' 2 best pass rushers. And they've said, we're probably not going to be winning enough one-on-one from both sides to go crazy with this pass rush and just try to swamp the opposing offense with sack after sack after sack. I think Saleh and Kaserik have said if that's going to be the 49ers plan, if they're going to try to go jailbreak rush, they're going to lose their lanes. Quarterbacks are going to be able to escape against them, and that's going to defeat the whole purpose of trying to get after the QB. So the 49ers have decided jailbreak rush out the window. We don't have the horses to do that successfully right now. In with the cage rush. In with a rush that is going to contain the quarterback to a pocket and is going to try to constrict them like the trash compactor from Star Wars, from A New Hope. And when you're cage rushing, the goal is to get as close to the QB as possible, to push that pocket in, to make him as uncomfortable as possible on every single snap. And look what Keon White and Bryce Huff were both able to do. Keon's doing a lot of his rushing from the inside, but he's also bringing heat from the edge. He had a deflection from the edge yesterday, which was a big play for San Francisco. And Bryce is just winning a lot. They terrorized left tackle yesterday. Ironically, the 1 sack for the 49ers came from Cleveland Farrell, who on average was furthest from the quarterback, but he made a huge play late in the game with the 49ers leading by 11, looking to shut the door. I think that this was obviously the 49ers' best cohesion between rush and coverage since Bosa and Warner went down. And you might be able to argue that this was the best cohesion between rush and coverage of the entire season. I mean, when you looked at the way that Jair Brown was able to peel off of his area and freelance his way to that first interception, he was trusting his teammates around him. He was trusting his indicators. When you look at the way that Jair Brown was able to converge on his second interception that essentially sealed the football game, well, Bryce Huff was wrapping around on the inside, getting into Bryce Young's face. And credit Renardo Green, too. I know he got beaten by Tedero McMillan for the touchdown, but he also had some big pass breakups against Tedero McMillan and very good coverage on the second Jair Brown interception. And when your corner has good coverage and your pass rush plan is solid and it is executed well, the safeties can play much more freely. And as the 49ers safeties improve, and Brown made other plays besides the interceptions, Malik Mustafa made other plays besides the interceptions, as that play improves, so will the 49ers defense. The corners have not been the weak point of the back seven for San Francisco. I get it. Upton Stout at that nickelback position has gone through growing pains this year, but I think that even he has been making some big plays for San Francisco. The one position that hadn't been making as many big plays until last night had been safety. And now that those are starting to come, I think it's no coincidence that the rush and the coverage are starting to meld together at a much higher level for the 49ers. Shout out to Curtis Robinson as well, playing his first game starting at the linebacker position. Remember that Curtis tore his ACL just 20 minutes after learning that he would become the starter for San Francisco in 2024. So he had to fight all the way back, and he delivered for the 49ers wearing the helmet with a radio in it yesterday. Really, really cool story from Curtis. And, Now that I've given you some of that background, let me find something that was really, really cool from the pregame yesterday. So I tell you that Curtis Robinson earned the starting spot in 2024 20 minutes before he tore his ACL in practice. The guy whom Curtis Robinson was about to supersede on the depth chart to start, the guy whose job he took for 20 minutes before he tore his ACL, was Demetrius Flannigan-Foles, who is now with the New York Giants. This, to me, is a really, really cool look inside the health of that 49ers locker room. Demetrius Flannigan-Foles posted that Curtis Robinson makes his first official start today with a really funny, cool GIF. DFF is the guy who was going to lose his starting job, who did lose it for those 20 minutes to Curtis Robinson last year. So to have the humility, he's not even on the 49ers anymore. He's following this very closely, but to have the humility, the class, the grace to go and remember and post about what a big deal this was for Curtis Robinson to fight back through a year of ACL recovery and to finally get his shot after it was taken away from him so cruelly. For Demetrius Flannigan-Foles to do that, to post this, I just thought was really neat. And I think a good glimpse into the camaraderie in that 49ers locker room for somebody who's not even on the team anymore to post something like that. So round of applause, cool moment from Demetrius Flannigan-Foles yesterday, posting that on social media. We have so much toxicity on social media, but then when actual people who have accomplished something post, somebody like DFF, instead of just some random Twitter trolls, it's usually something worth reading. So that's the kind of stuff that I do like to put up on the screen. Spotlight here on the channel. Everybody check out the San Francisco Standard. We've got the article up there, why the 49ers are not worried about Brock Purdy's interceptions and what is next against Cleveland. I can answer a few questions here. We'll see if Mike wants me to take care of anything. Nothing from Mike. 49ers going to prepare for the Browns, then they get the bye week. So short week and then some rest for San Francisco. I was talking to a couple buddies today. I think the consensus is that this might be the pivotal test of the season for the 49ers. If you're going to go in against the number one pass rush win rate and the number one run stop win rate D-line with Myles Garrett on a short week, and find a way to adhere to your offensive formula, and I go back to methodical, short passing, hog the ball, protect the defense even though it's coming off of its best game. It's going to be a short week, so the defense, I think, those guys tire a little bit more because they got to chase offensive players around. If you can straitjacket yourself into the formula you need to diffuse an awesome Cleveland Browns defense, then and you can win the game, obviously. If you can find a way to win in a place that's always been tough to you as a franchise, then you're going to be 9-4. You're going to be looking at a bad Tennessee Titans team coming off of a bye week, and you're almost certainly going to be on your way to the playoffs. You will have a chance to line things up to make a true January run. If you lose this game against Cleveland, yeah, you're probably still going to make the playoffs or still have a good chance to make the playoffs. But all of a sudden, you start to have real doubts about it. Can this offense really be the locomotive that pulls this train? If you lose to Cleveland, you might even have real questions about the defense and their improvement here over the past couple of weeks, because you will have lost to Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns. So I just look at this game. You're favored as the 49ers, but there are so many difficult aspects facing you. I look at this one as a true chance for San Francisco to announce their arrival at the stretch run of this season. If you can leave with a gritty win, I can start talking about this team as the 2010 San Francisco Giants, who weren't supposed to be as good as they were, but they just kept on winning. They kept on finding a way to get it done ugly. And this 49ers team, and they've got a top-rated special teams unit. They've got a defense that has a wizard as a coordinator who's somehow finding a way to scrap through every single week. Robert Saleh, what he has done. The blitzes yesterday were fantastic. I mean, he blitzed at one of his highest rates of the season, and then negative 15 expected points generated by the blitz against the Carolina Panthers. I mean, it was a masterful game plan, and I'm sure that Robert Saleh will have even more up his sleeve for another young quarterback in Shedeur Sanders next week. But you've got the defense playing opportunistic football the past 2 weeks. You have the special teams playing top-level football. Shout out to Matt Gay, who made both of his kicks for San Francisco yesterday. It's going to be a tough place to kick in Cleveland, by the way. And you got an offense that we all know has the potential to be elite. They just got to stick to their script, and maybe Kyle Shanahan needs to make sure that he sticks to his own script, and they've got to play that methodical hog the ball football. You've got all of these components, but you have to tie them all together and deliver in adverse conditions against the best defensive player in football and a really, really good defensive unit in the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. And if you could do that, then I think you've announced your arrival to the stretch run. You can announce that you've got some mean intentions if you are the 49ers. Again, those of you just joining, justice for Jawan Jennings. Trevon Merrick has been suspended for a game for the low blow against Jennings. We've talked about Robert Saleh, the season savior. We've talked about Christian McCaffrey, the engine. Of course, we've talked about Brock Purdy up on the screen right there. The 49ers 2025 season of grit has earned a dose of balance with what the defense was able to do yesterday. This, to me, is the 49ers' most encouraging EPA breakdown of the season, especially following those injuries. Plus 5.4 offense, plus 10.9 defense, and special teams holding serve. If your offense and defense are both in the positives, all you need is for the whole special teams to hold serve, and that was a good performance for the 49ers. So now we await this game against the Cleveland Browns. Ready for a few questions? Then I got to get going. Greg Smith says the 49ers play a game on his birthday, so happy early birthday. Question here, this is a good one. Is Yetur Gross-Matos returning for the Browns game or after the bye? He's going to be eligible to return now. They might want to give him a little bit more rest, not have him return in adverse conditions coming off the hamstring and with the knee injury. So I wouldn't be surprised if they would wait until after the bye. But good question there on Yetur Gross-Matos. We'll be on Brandon Ayuk watch this week to see if the 49ers open his practice window. I know I was talking a ton about that. Mike kept on texting me this morning. He's like, I think the 49ers actually could really use Brandon Ayuk. Obviously, we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of that until we actually see Brandon Ayuk on a practice field. I think if they open his window, that's going to be more for potential money recouping reasons for the 49ers. But it can be dramatic this week, and we're going to be watching that very closely. The Browns, one of the teams that the 49ers were discussing an Ayuk trade with back in 2024 before the contract was signed. The chat wants me to compare Josh Allen to Brock Purdy. I mean, they're both good quarterbacks. They're both quarterbacks who have had some struggles, as every single quarterback in the history of the league. Josh Allen is bigger and stronger than Brock Purdy. I think that Brock Purdy might be able to move a little bit more quickly and in short areas because he's a little bit smaller. He's definitely not as fast on a straight line as Josh Allen. Doesn't have as big of an arm as Josh Allen, but I think that he throws with anticipation better than Josh. I mean, they've both been at the top of the league efficiency rankings since they have been in the league. Brock Purdy, number one since 2022. I really don't know what you guys want me to say. I think that people overcomplicate things. They see a bad game, they see some interceptions, and they act like Brock Purdy is the only quarterback in NFL history that's not allowed to have a bad game. And I think that goes back to draftism. I think that everybody needs to chill out, recognize that Purdy somehow clawed his way back into plus efficiency, despite the fact that he threw those 3 picks, which to me is super encouraging for the 49ers, because I don't think that this is going to be a week-by-week struggle for Brock Purdy. You just got to play within himself, and Shanahan has got to call an offense that lets the explosives come to the 49ers. Don't aggressively pursue those explosives. Let an overly aggressive defense give you a chance to hurt them downfield. Don't try to go pry for those openings yourself. Any questions? Let's go for them. I've got to hit the road here in a little bit. You guys, anybody who is obsessing over Brock Purdy interceptions without context simply does not know football, period. More people watch my channel than any other 49ers channel by a lot because we seem to be the only ones capable of level-headed analysis. So, I mean, if you're going to continue using your feelings to try to make proclamations instead of actually looking at facts and looking at big picture efficiency. And Brock Purdy has been the most efficient quarterback in football ever since 2022. He was even efficient last year, despite everything crumbling around him. He's been really good this season leading up to the game yesterday. If you're going to willfully refuse to see the forest because you're staring at a single tree, I'm going to call you a clown. I mean, it's idiotic at this point. So you've had so many examples over the course of NFL history. You could stick with the 49ers own franchise. Joe Montana threw a bunch of interceptions against the Cowboys before he threw the catch to Dwight Clark. Like I said, Joe Montana threw 4 picks against the Bengals in '84 before they went to Cleveland and dropped 41. 49ers won a Super Bowl that year. I mean, if you're willfully being an idiot about this, which I think a lot of people are, just to be trolls or whatever, I can't help you. Go watch one of the many other channels that have way smaller viewership than we do, because the adults are here and most people agree with me. So, and because most people are actually reasonable. Like I tend to believe in people, and I think that our numbers really, really back that up. So that's all that I have to say. I think it's a mic drop. I think I'm signing off. We'll talk to everybody soon.